It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the South Carolina Gamecocks baseball assistant coach, Skylar Meade. How are you doing today?
Doing well. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about your coaching experience and how you knew that you wanted to start coaching in college?
Yeah, I don't know exactly when I knew it would, happen in college necessarily, but I always kind of had an affinity for, the kind of inner workings of the game. Ironically, I remember even in high school getting the name Coach Meade when I was like 14, 15 years old, just, in basketball and baseball, maybe having the want to take over on some situations and put my own spin on it, I guess. So it's always been something I've been interested in doing. And fortunately, just been able to, do this for a little while now and make a career out of it.
Can you talk about your coaching stops along the way to get you to South Carolina?
Absolutely. So out of playing at the University of Louisville, I started out at Eastern Illinois University. I was 22. I was a pitching coach there for Jim Schmitz, who I owe really every part of my career to, in the sense that he took a chance on me at 22 and let me be his pitching coach for him up there in Charleston for 5 years. And so after that experience, I went on to Middle Tennessee State and worked on for Jim McGuire when he started his head coaching career after being a longtime assistant there. Worked for him for 2 years. And then following that, we went up to Michigan State. We were there for a little over 3 years, coached there 3 seasons up in East Lansing, which was an awesome time. Really, really cool university and good people, and Jake Boss and Graham Sykes on our staff. And then in the late November of 17, when the South Carolina pitching job opened and they went through their process and interviewed a lot of people, when Jerry Myers had retired down here, got fortunate to be chosen to be the guy to take over the pitching staff here. And so now I've been here about 3 years, and it's been a great experience and one we hope goes on for a long time.
Can you talk about your experience at Michigan State University in 2016 to 17?
Yeah, when we got up there, my first season actually was in the 2015 year, and we had a really older, experienced group, and we did some pretty good things. We probably were I know we were the first team left out of the NCAA tournament. Field kind of got a snub there at the end, but had a great year overall. And then 2016, we had an outstanding season. We were nationally ranked for I think seven of the 15 weeks. Best start in school history still to this day. We were fortunate we had a pitching staff that ranked top 3 in the country in multiple statistics, and had some pitchers go in the top 10 rounds in the draft, and and then that obviously pushed on to 2017. We had a lot of those same guys back, and we did some pretty good things as a team, got ourselves ranked again and stuff like that. So it was a really fun experience up there in East Lansing. It was a time that my wife and I we wouldn't change for anything. It was a little cold for us at times, but other than that, it was a really unique place.
Can you talk about your time at Middle Tennessee State?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when we arrived at Middle Tennessee State, we were actually still in the Sun Belt Conference. But in that first, I want to say maybe 2 months, I remember going to an all-staff meeting that we were going to make the move to Conference USA. And so our first season there, it was a very unique deal. I talked about, walking into an experienced team at Michigan State. In Middle Tennessee, we had 18 seniors our first year, which is unheard of in college baseball. So it was kind of a very odd deal, a team that had gone through some rough times. And so We had some trials and tribulations through that first year, but our second year was still one of the better ones that they'd had in a long time. We had a pitcher lead the country in strikeouts. A kid named Zach Curtis ended up pitching the big leagues for bits and pieces of 3 seasons. And so great time. I mean, Jim McGuire is one of the most respected guys in the sport of baseball who I work for. He was a really good place. Murfreesboro is unique in that it's right outside of Nashville, about 25, 30 minutes, really a growing area, a school that is bigger than you would think. I don't know how familiar people are with Middle Tennessee State, but, it's about 26,000 students there, and really good place, great part of the country. You're definitely in SEC country down there. So that was kind of an early taste of what we've gotten into now that we really are in SEC country here at South Carolina.
Can you talk about what you accomplished at Eastern Illinois as the assistant coach?
Yeah, we were really lucky. I mean, during 4 of my 5 years, we led the conference in pitching and in ERA and multiple statistics. I mean, we had, our entire rotation, ended up pitching at least some bit of their career in AAA. We had a guy named Tyler Kerr who ended up going as a first round pick in the 2009 draft to the Angels. My very first season, we won the conference, went to the Nebraska regional. My second year, we actually had the longest win streak in the country, ended up being nationally ranked. We got to 27-5 at one point, which at Eastern Illinois isn't something that really, happens very often. And, had beat some national brand teams, over our time there. And so, what was really great was just the responsibility that, I mentioned Coach Schmitz earlier. He kind of let me roll with it and handle the pitching staff and in all aspects and all areas. And so, from 22 to 27 was my time there in terms of age. And so, you're able to you try to mature. You're not perfect. You make mistakes a lot. You learn in terms of recruiting, coaching, and just how to handle all things, handle administrators, how to, be a liaison between academics, between the weight room, all those different things. So, I mean, it's where, my career obviously started. And so I think it was a big launching pad for a lot of things that I still do now in year 14.
That's amazing. Can you talk about your college career as a baseball player at Louisiana?
Yeah, so I was at the University from 03 to 07. And, I had a unique career in the sense that it was going on a very normal path. And I came in as a two-way player and did some of that my first year. And then, my second year I'd become one of our, better arms and, pitched a lot. And then that normal progression, you become a weekend starter, your third year, then they tell you, hey, because you're a weekend starter, we don't want you to pitch anymore. And then, I started experiencing some shoulder things that I knew weren't normal. We all know our bodies, right? Like when we're sick, we might not be able to explain to somebody, but we feel it. My shoulder, I knew something was really, really wrong, and made it through about 6 weeks. And then my shoulder ended up being kind of exploded up and had to have surgery in the spring of 2005. And so I ended up missing, most of 2005. I sat out all of 2006 and fortunately came back and was able to, have a career in 2007. And, fate was on our side. Myself and a couple other guys had been injured, came back in 2007. And we, as a team, as a program, we were fortunate. Dan McDonnell and his new coaching staff had come in with, Coach Lamonis and Coach Williams. And, we were the last team to make the NCAA tournament. We were the last one sitting there in the room, hoping we get a shot when the year ended. And so to go on the run that we did and play in Omaha and actually win a game in Omaha and, have a chance to win a national championship. We didn't get it done, but to actually get to experience those things, to play in front of 26,000 people at Rosenblatt, where it was at the time when I played, was one of the more unique experiences. And, one of the things that I don't really reflect on maybe as much as I should, but, even people, I don't know if you know this, Brandon, but like when in Omaha, they do a big kind of almost gala the night before. The stadium's packed, 25, 26, 27,000 people, and they introduce all the teams. They fireworks. There's concerts going on outside, and they through these parachute people, and they fly flags down to the team, and one person who kind of is representative of the school or university gets to get the flag and bring it to their team before you're introduced in front of all the people of Omaha. And being a person who was Louisville born and had Louisville Cardinals deep in my blood, I ended up being the person that was selected to do that. So it was a really cool experience on top of just the actual playing and getting to to have a chance to win it all out there.
That's pretty cool. Can you talk about, of course, like being a coach now and coaching for the College World Series, what the difference is?
There's so much more responsibility on your plate, I think, as a coach, and just outside things that you handle. Now, that being said, players, they have more on their plate than ever too, in the sense that, obviously they have their schoolwork, they have their responsibilities as an athlete. Lifting and working out has become more detailed, more expansive than ever. Obviously, there's things that maybe like people that played during my time didn't have to deal with social media. There's a lot of pressure, especially playing in the SEC at a place like South Carolina. But as a coach, you never just totally can just take the foot off the gas, in a sense. If things are going well, you're still looking ahead to recruiting. You're looking ahead at the current. Am I recruiting junior college kids? Is there this kid that's going to explode on the scene that we need to be on? Is there kids multiple years down the road that we need to be recruiting? Is so-and-so going to be prepared to handle the 8th inning if we give them the ball tomorrow? Who's going to be our defensive replacement in the 9th? There's so many more things as a coach sometimes I think you deal with, and you reflect on that as a player. It was kind of just like you got to really enjoy it. As a coach, maybe you sometimes don't really sit there and just maybe take in experiences the same way. Whether that's right or wrong, it's just kind of the way it is.
Can you talk about, of course, being a coach in the SEC and what that pressure is like, being one of the top schools?
Absolutely. I think people look at pressure in a lot of ways. It's never something that I feel like, just from myself individually, I would ever let engulf me, because I think you're in a very fortunate position being one of the coaches, whether you're the head coach or the 28 assistant coaches. There's 42 of us in this league. And so it's the premier league in the country. Everyone has, worked hard and done things in their career to earn the right to be here. And so you're just trying to prove your worth to the people that stuck their neck out to hire you, or that had, helped you along the way. And you're just trying to represent that school and make the fans and the people in the community happy by the product that you put out there. And you understand that every game is not going to go necessarily the way you want. You're going to have people that maybe are critical of decisions that you make, or things that go on in recruiting from time to time. But in the end, if you have a good product and you've done all the legwork, groundwork, whatever terminology you want to put it, if you do all that, then to me, I don't think that it should feel like pressure. I think it should be fun, and you get an opportunity where you can recruit the best players in the country. You get to play in front of the most eyes in the country, and it's not even close, between the SEC network and the ESPN affiliates, and the way that our TV packages work. More people see your games than any other conference in the world. And in the end, that, to me, I think that's all you want. You want that value and that importance. So with that, I just try to take it as fun and hope that we can win as many games and win a national championship here again, like it's been done before.
Can you talk about the 2017 and 18 season, the amazing season that you had?
Yeah, our first year here, South Carolina was a really, it was a really fun time. It certainly, it sounds cliche in the sense that, people always say a season has up and downs. We had ours going real down. We were sitting there at 20-17. We had just lost to a team, an in-state team that we should not probably have lost to. Came out really flat and lost a midweek game. And, it put us in a spot where we had not been doing well in conference. There was nothing we were doing great as a team at that point in time. And so, we'd made some changes in our rotation. We made some changes in how our team was going to focus on the rest of the year. It had become infamous around our way. Coach Kingston had taken our players lounge out and said we need to focus on baseball and what it takes and what it means to be a Gamecock, rather than playing video games and doing what else, 18 to 21-year-olds do. But from that point on, at 2017, we ended up, rolling through the rest of the year. We won our last 5 conference series. That first weekend after we made those changes, we swept LSU at home. We went to Vanderbilt, won 2 of 3. We took 2 of 3 from Ole Miss, who was top 5 in the country. We went to Texas A&M, took 2 of 3, beat Missouri 2 of 3. So we did some great things, and we found our way to the East Carolina Regional. We rolled through that. We pitched extremely well. Our older hitters were great in very clutch late game situations. But then we ran into the worst matchup you could ask for. We had to go out to Arkansas again. In Arkansas, I know they lost the national championship, but if they catch a pop-up, they probably are your national champions, and I think the best team in the country. And, we were going to be a tough out. We forced them to a game 3, but it just wasn't in the cards for us. And hands, no hand's going to be raised and tell you we had a better team than them. We might have been playing really well, but they were a very tough out in front of 13,000 Arkansas fans. And so they ended up, like I said, beating us and going on to Omaha. But I thought it was a great experience. I thought it brought some juice back to South Carolina baseball that had been, in a struggle for a couple years. And, hopefully it was a foundational piece that showed what we can do in our program, what we can do under Coach Kingston, and where we're trying to do bigger and better things. I mean, getting to a super regional is not enough. We want to go to Omaha. We want to win it all. But I think it was a really, really great year in the sense of how things were at a really low point. We were able to turn things around.
Can you talk about the recruitment process at South Carolina for the baseball program and what you look for in players?
Absolutely. I mean, we of course, you got to recruit guys that are the best of the best. Now, there's always a fine line on that in recruiting, and not just here at South Carolina. A lot of the ACC, SEC, Big 12, when you recruit high-level players, you're always going to battle the draft. So you still have to be strategic at sometimes in the sense that if you get too many high-profile guys, you may be losing them and they never set foot on your campus. But at the same token, you also have to take those risks too. For us, we try to recruit, guys that can do a lot of things. From if it's a position player, we want athletic guys, guys that are big, that can play all over the field, and guys that hopefully at some point will hit with some juice. You got to be great up the middle. So you got to really invest in the catcher and the shortstop, and you want to have a guy that can lock it down in center field. But you also, you want to make sure that your guys that are on the corners can really bang it. We play in a very offensive park. The ball can really fly out when it warms up, and we want to be able to take advantage of that. In terms of the pitching side, you want to get a bunch of big, strong, athletic guys that maybe aren't totally tapped out yet, guys that have room for growth. Doesn't mean every guy on your staff is going to be 6'5". We brought in a bunch of donkeys in our 2020 class, guys that are 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". But at the same time, you look at 2 of our best guys in our weekend rotation that'll be pretty high draft picks. They're 6 foot and 6'2", and our closer's 5'11". So we just want to get guys that are very dynamic in nature, guys that are good kids, guys that are very trustworthy. They need to be on top of their stuff academically. And they need to have a vibe and a fit our culture. And I think you got to be very tough-minded to play here at South Carolina. I think if you can survive playing in the fishbowl that it is here in Columbia, then I think that serves you well once you go on to play at the professional level, which most of our guys get an opportunity to do. And so, it's recruiting's weird. We recruit guys really early. Sometimes you're learning those things as you go. But in the end, they got to have talent. They got to have talent. They got to have a niche in whatever it is their skill set is. And so we try to corner the market on those guys as early as possible and get them to learn what we're about as coaches and what South Carolina is about as a school and a baseball program.
How difficult is it for you as a college coach to go out and recruit high school players whenever high school players can go into the MLB like straight out of high school than when if you were a basketball coach?
Yeah, it's definitely something that, I think people don't totally understand what it is like, in the sense that, there's a lot of layers to it. A kid could leave straight out of high school and go take the money and never set foot on campus. He could decide he wants to go junior college because he wants to have a chance to be drafted after 1 year or 2 years. Because once we get them, if they're with us, it's going to be 3 years, or whenever you're 21 years old, which for some guys it's 2 years. But yeah, it's a very risky deal. You're sifting through a lot of information, right? You're speaking to people in the scouting community. You talk to you talk to the player, you talk to the families, their background, their emphasis or maybe their non-emphasis on the academic side. Their financially where they're at. All you can do is educate them. I mean, listen, our answer to every family is not the same on whether it's a good decision or a bad decision for somebody. There might be somebody that if they told us, hey, this team is going to take me in the second round and they're going to give me $2 million, and we go, hey man, good luck to you. Have at it. That's outstanding. And we wish the best of luck. There might be another kid where that same scenario, we say that's not the right move. Come to college, elevate your stock, and be a $5 million guy, because that might be something in his cards. And so it's a weird deal. I don't think people totally understand what all it entails. This past year was as unique as ever, with the draft being, truncated to 5 rounds, kids not getting to play their high school seasons or a very limited portion of their high school season. And, for us, we got some guys to school this year that otherwise we would have never gotten into school. They would have just been, they would have been scouted too much. They probably would have been offered too much money for them to turn down. Fortunately, they came here. We think that some of those guys have a chance to be, big, $1 million guys in a couple of years in that 23 draft. But that's not always going to be the case. It's just not the way that it works. But you do. You have to recruit those guys, because the one that you get or the two that you get can totally change the trajectory of your program.
Can you talk about the official visit and what that's like?
Absolutely. It's been really, terrible in the post-corona times. There's been no, off campus, on campus recruiting since March 12th, and there will not be any till April of next year at the earliest. And so that part's been weird. I really feel for those high school kids that are trying to make decisions now in regards to that. But, our official visits are unique, maybe to each kid or each scenario. Now, I will tell you, one of my favorite things that we do with our official visits normally is when all of our kids are committed the fall of their senior year, we'll bring in all of our commits in for a weekend, bring their families. We put them up in a hotel. We'll have a Friday night to Sunday morning weekend that, we do a dinner, or we have something going on at the baseball field Friday night. We'll have activities Saturday. Hopefully it kind of maybe cycles around a football game, depending what time of day that is. We'll have, a couple other meals. One thing you'll notice with any official visit, it's all about eating. Everything goes around when are the meals. But then Sunday, big breakfast and a closing deal. And that's a really cool experience. But at the same time, you bring in junior college kids sometimes. You maybe bring them in for one day on a weekend. Maybe you bring them in a midweek if that's when they are most available. Generally the official visit, what we try to do, the things we try to hammer out is who we are as coaches, who we are as a program, what South Carolina is as a university. We try to just make sure they know how they're going to be taken care of, what the community and the game experience is like. And then we also just try to make sure that they see our program in action, so they get to see our guys lift. They see our guys on the field. They get to see what it's going to be like in 6, 8, 10 months when they make a decision. Can they envision themselves in those positions as the guys are who are already in this program? But yeah, official visits, it's funny. So many more of the official visits now are for kids that are already committed, whereas 10 years ago, your official visits were used to get guys to join your program.
Can you talk about, of course, the process of letting them try on the scarlet red South Carolina jerseys?
Yeah. So, do you mean in regards to like how we kind of do it, like at our visits and stuff like that?
Yes.
Yeah. So no, that's a funny thing that you're seeing and we, not just here in South Carolina, but all over the country, and I think football kind of took the lead on this, but yeah, one of the things that we do is, we'll bring in a photographer and we'll get out the jerseys. We have way too many jerseys here in South Carolina. I think we got like 11 or 12 different tops. It's unbelievable. But yeah, we make sure that they throw on the garnet pennies and, throw on maybe their favorite gray or whatever. They got plenty of options, but we'll have a photographer come in and, take pictures of them in that jersey and get pictures with their family. And listen, it's the age of social media, right? I don't know how active you are on social media, Brandon, but everybody seems to have a profile when they're young now, and they want to make sure they get their followers up, get their likes, get their retweets, whatever the heck it may be. And so they love it, and so it's become a staple. It's something you have to do. And, I know, like I said, football does it. Basketball's got all their edits they do. And, you see it when kids, even young kids, commit now. They all got these edits of themselves in the jersey of whatever school they commit to. So the thing about it, though, that I do think is maybe undervalued is you want those kids to have an attachment to your school. You want them to have that attachment so that if they are being offered a good sum of money, it's going to make them think twice, because they say, man, I remember what it was like. I put on that, my favorite number. I'm number 10. I tried on my garnet pinstripe uniform at South Carolina. I think about what that felt like. And I think about playing in front of 8,500 people there at Founders Park. And I don't want to miss that experience. I don't want to miss being a college student. I can always go play in the professional side when that's done, but I want to go there and experience it for 3 years. So some of it becomes a little flashy and maybe a little crazy, but I do think there can be some relevance to how it can help a kid make the decision to end up coming to school.
That's wonderful. What advice would you give upcoming high school baseball players looking to play in college?
Well, I tell you what, number one, you got to work. There's no doubt that, there's more information out there than ever, whatever sport or wherever you're at, if you're just sitting there and idly hoping that it's going to work out, if you're a basketball player, football player, baseball player, whatever, that's not going to happen. There's too much information out there. One thing I would say specific to baseball that I think guys need to learn sooner rather than later at the high school level, at least, is the value of the weight room. Doesn't mean that every guy needs to come in and be a wizard in there, but you got to understand what it takes in terms of the strength side. I mean, the SEC it's a man's league, and there's very few little guys in that league. And so you need to be in there and know how to squat. You need to know how to deadlift. Need to have strong lower half. You got to have a good core, got to have some shoulders on you. I think guys, sometimes they wait. They always wait, and they think, I'll start doing this soon. And some of them, they end up getting behind the 8 ball a little bit because they don't do that. And the only other thing I would tell you, maybe that I would really strongly say in terms of advice for the high school guys, is just know what is important in this game. Just like any game, it's winning and losing. You got to know how to actually compete and win. And I think sometimes guys get very caught up in showcasing themselves, right? So guys get more excited about, I just threw the ball whatever velocity and I'm very happy about it, but yet you can't get a human being out, right? I'm trying to improve my 60 every single day, and I ran a 6.5. Now I've got it figured out. No, you don't. If you can't hit the ball, you can't play defense, and you can't play. And so in this age, and it looks cool, right? I throw a ball 95 miles an hour. I post it to my social media as everybody says, hey, you're doing great. You're super. That doesn't mean you can pitch. I don't know. I think guys, maybe they don't play as many. One, they don't play as many sports anymore, so they don't really get that. I don't know, maybe that combative, competing element in there all the time, going out and playing football, playing basketball, go play tennis, whatever. Like they just maybe don't do that as much. And so, I think we have to teach guys sometimes how to win, how to compete, because maybe they're caught up in the wrong things. And I'm not saying that's for everybody. There's some kids that compete as great as anyone I've ever been around. So I don't mean that like it's some like massive societal issue with these kids, but at the same time, it's a new phenomenon that they're going through it just as we are as coaches. And so the quicker they can learn to get after it and know how to beat somebody mano a mano, I think the better off that they'll be.
That's wonderful advice. What advice would you give upcoming college coaches looking to get into the industry?
Well, I mean, you got to be willing to make sacrifices, and those sacrifices could be a lot of things. Early on, it might be financially, it may be locationally. You've got to be mobile. You have got to be mobile. This happens all the time. Young coach says, "Hey, I want to get in it," and then you tell them about a school, and they go, and they're saying, or they're hesitating because of where it's at. You got to be willing to go out of your comfort zone, and and I hate using the word, but I mean, it can be a bit of a grind. You might work some longer hours. You don't get paid great early on. You're not exactly sure what your path's going to be. There's a lot of unknown, but there can be a lot of great things that happen on the back end of it too. I mean, if you had have told me in, even 2012, when I'm coaching at Eastern Illinois, that 5 years later I would be coaching at the University of South Carolina, I would hope that, but at the same time, I couldn't have predicted that either. There's a lot of twists and turns that happen within all that, but you just cannot be afraid to experience things and to go outside of what you're accustomed to. Because I think when you do, a lot of good things can happen and your fortunes can change really quick.
That's wonderful advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with the South Carolina baseball team hat?
So my Twitter handle is at Skylar T Meade. I guess mine's the same on Instagram. I should know that off the top of my head, shouldn't I? But hold on, let me confirm that. I want to make sure that is actually mine on Instagram is just Skylar Meade or Skylar.Meade. And then, you can find everything South Carolina, our Gamecocks athletics, our Gamecock baseball, Instagram, and our Twitter. An interesting fact for you, Brandon, our Twitter is the second most accessed Twitter site in all of college baseball. We have 182,000 followers, to our Twitter handle, and we post a lot of great content out there, whether it's just information, videos, so on and so forth. It's very engaging. I like to think I'm a good Twitter handle. I think I do okay, but I don't go. I got a ways to go to catch up to Gamecock baseball in terms of followers. So, but no, there's so many great ways to follow what we're doing and the things that we have going on. And I think as much as we might complain about parts of social media that can be negative, I do think there's a lot of great ones too that it can connect us all in the drop of a hat.
Thank you again, Skylar, for your interview, and best of luck in this upcoming season with the South Carolina Gamecocks.
Brandon, I really appreciate it, and thank you for having me on. And I hope this thing goes great, and you get some other big time interviews. You got any people on your wish list you're trying to get next?
Yeah, I do.
All right. If there's anybody I'm ever attached to, I can help you out with, man. Let me know.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Skylar, for your interview, and best of luck.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.